viewers, welcome to the week's last edition of Focus on Afcon over My Media Prime Television. 2 more days to go and the land of the Indomitables will be saying welcome to Africa. Focus on Afcon looks at the route to the 33rd edition of the tournament on home soil with interesting analysis by fine sports brains. This is Macdella Bisong for presentation. On today's edition of the program, we are going to talk about Nigeria and Senegal's arrival in Cameroon and key players missing out. Gabon's arrival sparks controversy as they refuse hotel allocated by CAF. Aubameyang's COVID case. We are going to look at Equatorial Guinea's peaceful arrival amidst recent repatriation of Cameroonians, which we are going to tell you as the program unfolds. We are going to look at Guinea's friendly against Rwanda. We are also going to look at Morocco and Sierra Leone players who have been promised huge financial compensations for participation in this year's Afcon. And we are also going to tell you about CAF's president who kept to his word and has already landed into Cameroon. These and more will be yours in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Today's edition of the program will look at breakings, fresh happenings surrounding the Afcon. My dear brother and colleague Issa Rene yesterday focused on all 6 groups of the Afcon, their opponents, and as well as key players. And so today we shall feed you with Afcon breakings. But first, take a look at KGBA, who are one of the official sponsors of the Total Energies African Cup of Nations.
Football is in our DNA. Enjoy each game with a cold, fresh Kaji beer. Kaji beer, the official beer of the Afcon Total Energies Cameroon 2021. Drink responsibly. 21 plus.
With me in the studio are 2 fine brains, which we are going to introduce to you right away. Mr. Enow Ako has been here with us from the maiden edition of this program, and today again he is here to dissect sports with us. Good evening and welcome, sir.
Good evening to you, Macdella. Good evening to Gilbert. Sports is in the genes of the people of Kwakwa as well as the people of Ekiliwindi in southwest region of Cameroon.
Okay, good evening to you too, Gilbert, and welcome.
Good evening to you, Macdella. Let me say good evening to the president of Makuda, that's Mankon Cultural Demonstration in Vola. President Diaga, Julius, for the wonderful work he's doing, bringing all the sons and daughters of Mankon under speaking the same language. I mean, it's so exceptional. And to my mothers of Kanikwi, I want to say good evening to you, darling mothers.
All right, right away we would like to show you how ready Cameroon is. We have the newly constructed 60,000 seats Olembe Stadium, which we have to show you now to tell you how prepared Olembe Stadium is to welcome Africa, as almost all 23 nations are already in Cameroon. Take a look at the newly constructed Olembe Stadium. Those are images of the newly constructed 60,000-seat Olembe Stadium in Yaoundé, where the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon will take on the Stallions of Burkina Faso during the first game. And the second game will be against the Blue Sharks of Cape Verde and Ethiopia. We are also going to show you images of militants who have already begun training at the Olembe Stadium. Take a look at the militants who have already begun training at the Olembe Stadium as early as today. This is just to show you how prepared Cameroon is to welcome all 23 nations, including Cameroon, making it 24 nations in the 33rd edition of the African Cup of Nations. And that was it. Now we are going to talk about Nigeria and Senegal's arrival in Cameroon, as well as key players missing out. Nigeria have already touched down Garoua and Senegal are already in Bafoussam. Before we get to talk to the analysts who are in here to dissect this edition of today's program, we are going to take a look at the arrival of Senegal in Bafoussam, and we are going to talk to one of our reporters out there, Flo Kamga, who was out in Bafoussam to welcome the players of Senegal and had this to tell the media.
Mane, Sadio, El Hadj, Toutes les équipes de la poule B sont déjà en place et logées dans leurs différents hôtels que sont la vallée de Bana pour le Malawi et le Zimbabwe qui logent dans le Oncam. Le Sénégal et la Guinée-Conakry étant installés à l'hôtel Tajidor Bango dans le département des Hauts-Plateaux, tel que prévu par la CAF. Hier jeudi, le Sénégal a suivi une séance d'entraînement au stade Photo Victor de Banjul dans le département du Konki.
Moi-même, je les ai vus avec mes propres yeux, je n'ai pas entendu. Bon, je me dis vraiment que ça, c'est le moment de la CAN. C'est ça qui me confirme que la CAN serait là.
Nous sommes vraiment contents et nous souhaitons la bienvenue et bonne chance au Cameroun.
On a quand même effacé la poussière sur beaucoup de routes au Cameroun. Donc on doit dire merci à la CAN. On ne dit pas merci à l'équipe dirigeante.
On a pris dans les drapeaux pour dire que chez nous aussi, nous sommes déjà en pleine CAN.
Toute affinité. Les 4 équipes qui sont pour Bafoussam sont déjà très bien dès l'aéroport de Bamungum jusqu'à destination.
Je suis place pour accueillir les étrangers chez nous. C'est quelque chose qu'on n'a jamais eu à rêver et à penser.
Dans la ville de Bafoussam, cité haute de compétition, l'engouement est quelque peu en baisse à cause des modalités d'accès au stade.
Comme on demande qu'on se vaccine d'abord, là, c'est là où ça nous paraît encore difficile.
Mais seulement on parle de vaccins, on parle des tests. Bon, c'est ça qui nous fiscalise. On ne sait pas qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire. Nous aimerions bien aller au stade.
Je suis prêt d'aller dans le stade, mais seulement si on ne dit pas qu'il faut se vacciner avant d'entrer là, je peux me présenter. Mais si ce n'est pas une obligation, moi je veux me retirer, je veux rentrer chez moi, je vais sur ma télé.
Avec le simple test, j'irai au stade. Mais me faire vacciner, c'est que je vais voir à Canal+. Et à Siativ.
En tour au marché A de Bafoussam, la vente des gadgets est timide pour le moment.
Peut-être ce dimanche qu'on saura, peut-être c'est au début là qu'on va comprendre qu'il y a la carte.
Les clients se plaignent par rapport au prix parce que les prix sont un peu élevés. Et puis bon, on espère que avec le temps, avec le changement qu'il y a sur le marché, ça doit aller.
Il y a un mot de 7 000, 8 000, 10 000, 4 000, 3 000 et aussi les mots des équipes qui sont sorties ailleurs, nous n'avons pas assez. Comme les Malawi et les autres, la Guinée, il n'y en a même pas.
Il y a tout.
Guinea are also a part of Pool B in the bar out there in Bafoussam, and I've already touched down Bafoussam. Take a look at pictures of Guinea arriving Bafoussam. Thank you so much for the job well done out there, Flo. Now, right away, we are going to talk about Nigeria's arrival to Garua. Brett said the most present thing is that they are going to be without key player Idion Igalo, who we know very well is a very prolific and a very important player for Nigeria's squad. And they are going to come into the competition without Igalo because his club refused to let him go. Mr. Enow Ako, your reactions?
Yes, it's so sad that a striker like Igalo, we're going to be missing him. Some few years ago, he played for Manchester United, and he's one of those that we're expecting to see in Cameroon. Unfortunately, his club decided to hold him back, but like we said yesterday, it's a shame that the Nigerian FA is actually sitting quiet with such an attitude from a club. Nigeria FA should definitely be taking this issue to FIFA. It's unacceptable the way other continents or other nations decide to treat African players. Remember some months ago, it was Jurgen Klopp who came out and made utterances against Afcon. Likewise, Federic Antonetti. These gentlemen definitely don't have respect for African players. They think that African players are still articles. They think that we are equipments. No. They think that African players are machines. No. They are humans just like any other player. You need to give the player the respect. Afcon, just like Euro in Europe, just like what we have in Latin America, and just like the World Cup, Those are international competition which all clubs need definitely to respect. It's a shame that, remember, before even before Sadio Mane and Salah left, it was also an issue in the ranks of Liverpool for them to release those players.
You have to give them a condition.
Perfect. We also have scenarios because Nigeria has a huge contingent of its players playing in the Elite One in England. But it's unfortunate that each time these gentlemen, they have to leave for Nigeria, there is always a struggle. We shouldn't be struggling. And once again, I'm calling on the CAF administrators. This should serve as an eye-opener to Africa, that it's time for us to develop African football. It's time for us to invest in African football, to stop attitude of such. Because if we had developed African football to a certain degree, most Egyptian players play at home. Somebody like Abu Trika, he never traveled abroad, but he was one of the finest Egyptian players. He played for Egypt and for Al Ahly. So we have clubs in like Tepe Mazembe in Congo. Somebody like people like Teko Modise of South Africa never went abroad. They had all their careers in Africa. We need to develop African football to ensure that attitude of such, we will no longer be having them. But on the contrary, Nigeria, when you look at the Nigerian squad, it has a lot of talent. If they will be missing Igalo, they will be having somebody like Enow Ako, who plays for Leicester City in England. So you also have somebody like Chikwueze, who plays for Villarreal in Spain. I think, of course, they will be missing Victor Osimhen of Napoli. They'll also be having, they also have somebody like Ahmed Musa, who is also still active in the Eagles den. And I think that Nigeria still has the pedigree, irrespective of the absence of Igalo, but it's a call for concern. A club cannot hold down a nation, because we are not looking at Igalo as an individual. We are looking at Igalo as a representative of Nigeria. It therefore means what the club is telling us is that they are above a nation. Consequently, the Nigerian FA needs to wake up. And I'm not only calling on the Nigerian FA, I'm calling on the other FAs as well. We need to ensure that we manage our players, because the club made a comment that the Nigerian FA actually sent the request for Igalo to be released late. I kept asking myself the question. African Afcon is not a small tournament. It's one of the best tournaments we have in the world. Tournaments like the World Cup. After the World Cup, Afcon as well as the Euro could be packed in different capacity. We are talking about the African continent. We are talking about have respect for African people. Because when you see attitude of such, that's why racism in Europe is having a grip on African players. Because if an African player cannot be released to represent his nation, then come to think about it, do you think that club will be able to represent those players in terms of to fight against racism? Reasons why I keep saying that things like the fight against racism in Europe is all about, they are just struggling to deceive Africans. They are actually not doing what is expected. But what we can promise our brothers and sisters in Europe is that Africa is a friendly continent.
All right, talking about disrespect, Gilbert, we saw how a few weeks back Sebastian Halle felt disrespected because he was asked to choose between the Afcon and his European League out there by a journalist. And I bet you his response was just to show the world out there that African football matters. Now, it's the same case with Egypt's Sadio Mane and the other players that are in Egypt. They were asked to choose that. They were given a condition. They had to stay in the club, play some games before they could even come up for the Afcon. What do you make about this issue? It's not the first time players, African players, are not being let to come and play for their home games or come and play African Nation Championships. What do you make about this decision of European clubs not letting Africans to come and represent their nations?
Somewhere, somehow, I would like to say, I want to put myself in your shoes. You know, when you look at these clubs, they invest huge sums of money on these footballers. Whether you like it or not, most of our African players have fetched huge sums of money and have set their families and friends out of poverty thanks to these clubs. So I think somehow they owe a lot of respect from us and all those things. But what I kick against is that some of them are not really just in the way they say things. When you listen to Spalletti, you listen to Jurgen Klopp and others, they they gave a no name to Afcon, and that's unacceptable. When Jurgen Klopp says that there's a small tournament that's going to be organized somewhere in Cameroon in the days ahead, you start asking yourself a lot of questions on what he's saying. And when you have this very Jurgen Klopp coming to tell us that Joel Matip has said he won't play the Afcon, we expected Matip to come out and say, I won't play the Afcon. You remember that there were some moves orchestrated by the Ministry of Sports and Joel Matip's family for Joel Matip to come back into the Lions Den. But it was Jurgen Klopp who declared that Matip told him that he wouldn't be coming for the Afcon. I mean, such declarations weren't all that interesting.
So it means that we Africans who are the ones trying to promote some of these things.
Exactly. In as well as we want to get into your shoes to understand that they invest a lot of money, for these clubs for this
yes. Taking advantage.
Exactly. It's time we came to a dialogue table with these European clubs. They're growing more and more powerful as days pass by. Macdella, these clubs, with the association of English clubs and others. You see, remember last time there was even this issue pulling ropes with UEFA over the Champions League. We had the Big Ten, Juventus of Turin, Manchester United, and others who wanted to create their own leagues, looking at the earnings that were coming and all those things. So as days pass by, these clubs grow stronger and stronger, and it's time for us to get to understand how they function. On the other hand, I want to say, Macdella, that the absences of these players, let me take the case of Victor Osimhen. Osimhen is absent not because he wanted. At a given point, we were told he was injured and he had to stay off pitch for over a month and others. When he went to Nigeria, he came back saying he was fit and he really wanted to play the Afcon. But later on, we heard from Napoli's management that Osimhen was COVID positive and he couldn't take part. I mean, all those things, and it's funny. Mohamed Salah was same story. They said Salah couldn't come and all those things. But later on, they agreed that they could let Salah and Mane join their different squads on the 3rd of January. It wasn't bad anyway. And you could see, you could read from the faces of these players, Sadio Mane, Salah and others, Edouard Mendy. Immediately after the game, Chelsea, Liverpool, Mendy and Mane took the next flight that was getting to Dakar immediately. So that really shows that these players have that feeling for their countries. They love their countries, but they're there in Europe because they want to fetch some money and take out their very poor families from the difficult situations they're going through. And as Ako said, it is time African leaders sat, those running African football sat, and took out, the elements that are needed for this football to get out of the tough moments and all those things, build our football leagues. It's really good news in Cameroon, Etofis and others coming up to take the different leagues to see how things can be handled and all those things. Well, more is still to be done so that in the days ahead, our players won't go to Europe where they are victims of racism all the time and all those things, insults. They are treated like monkeys. We don't like such things. We need to work out of them. So, thank God these players are there, but some of the key players in the likes of Igalo, Osimhen, Crépin Diatta of Senegal wouldn't be there. It's really painful. Jeve Kwasi of Cote d'Ivoire, they wouldn't be there. I mean, Sylvain Bou, the top keeper of Cote d'Ivoire, equally will be absent from this great jamboree in Cameroon, and all those things. So, we would have liked to see all the African stars in Cameroon. It's unfortunate that some of them won't be there.
All right. Talking about COVID-19 pandemic plaguing most of these players who are coming in for the Afcon, we are going to look at Gabon's captain who has tested positive for COVID-19. We are talking about no other than Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. And amidst this, we are also going to talk about Gabon's arrival, which sparked controversies as they came to Cameroon and they refused Hotel La Falaise that was allocated to them by CAF, and they risk facing sanctions because the matter has been taken to the CAF disciplinary commission because this team were given a hotel since August 16, 2021, and they had until that time, until now, or until I think December ending, to retaliate and to tell CAF that they are not comfortable with the hotel, but they didn't, and they came to Cameroon. They refused a hotel that were given to them, and despite the fact that they even they requested that they want a different hotel, CAF rejected. They went ahead, violated the regulations, and they went ahead and chose another hotel for them. This is not the first time it's happening. We saw the case of Morocco, who came along with all their teams. Don't you think that this is disrespect not only for the host nations, but for CAF?
Yeah, it is total disrespect. When you have teams coming in, it's so funny. Gabon, the Gabon FA wrote a letter to CAF on the 4th of January. Saying they were not comfortable with the hotel. It was too late.
To the start of the
Afcon, yeah, too late. And what I read what the response today, the letter CAF wrote, the disciplinary committee of CAF wrote to them. In that letter, they said that the conditions. When you look at the geographical position of Hotel La Falaise, is in the center town of Yaoundé, and with the conditions gathered around there, it doesn't create a good atmosphere, ambiance for the players to get focused on the games coming up. So where they're right, you see, when you're dealing with professional players in the likes of Denis Bouanga, in the likes of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and others, you have to expect that because they're players who are used to preparing their games in standard hotels, standard environments where they get nothing else but focused on delivering the goods. The Gabonese team for the past time have been faced with a lot of scandals. Before they left Libreville to Qatar, where they had their preparations, there was this issue of match bonuses and others. The players almost boycotted the Afcon. They said if the bonuses were not well defined and dropped in their coffers, they wouldn't participate in the Afcon. So I wasn't surprised when they came to Yaoundé. The officials, the FA, were okay with the hotel, with Hotel La Falaise. We were doing an advert here with Hotel La Falaise, but the players said they couldn't, spend time there because it wasn't, a good one for them, to get set, focused for the games ahead. The FA actually showed some interest in that, showed some respect in that, because the media officials that accompany the team are there, are lodged in a hotel. You have equally 1 or 2 members of the delegation at Hotel La Falaise, but the players are at Starland Hotel in Yaoundé. So somehow they're right, and it now gives room to CAF, to get into, to revise the criteria that we set on table for the choice of hotels. Sincerely speaking, Macdella, when you go to Yaoundé, the geographical position of Hotel La Falaise is not a good one for a footballer to get focused. They need, reserved environments where, a lot of calmness. When you go to hotel, Tashido in Bangu is a good one for players to get focused. When you go to Valley, the Bana, the environments are comfortable for these players to get set, and go for the games.
There are still so many talks that they had until, till August 16, 2021 to have said something to CAF. They had the option to tell CAF that no, and I think that the work of the team manager was he was supposed to have come to Cameroon, check out this hotel. If it was not comfortable for them, I think they had until that time to have told CAF that no, they are not comfortable with the hotel that was allocated to them by CAF. Don't you think the team manager had a role too to play as concerns the hotel that was given to them?
And Macdella, when we are talking about Gabon, which is in Central Africa, just our neighbors, it therefore means Gabonese, they already know Hotel La Falaise. Okay. That said, Starland Hotel is in Cameroon. It definitely means that they'll be using Starland Hotel, which is another edifice in Cameroon. In our previous edition, I did say that we are blessed with so many of these infrastructures. If we never had an alternative, I would have been more worried. But the Gabonese delegation, they still decided to go in for Starland, which is another structure in Cameroon. And on that perspective, I think I'm glad. But again, why did they refuse La Falaise? We should be thinking about that. They said, okay, La Falaise is not too good for them, and they've decided to leave behind members of the FA as well as other delegates who came in with them, while the players will be lodging in Hotel La Falaise, lodging at Starland Hotel. Yeah, and more often when teams have to make such arrangements, they definitely incur the cost. I think that the Gabonese, they'll be incurring the cost at Starland, and we wish them well. We want them to enjoy their stay in Cameroon, but since CAF disciplinary committee had already issued them a disciplinary warning, it therefore means that after the event, they will definitely have 1 or 2 sanctions. It might not only be a sanction meted to Gabon all alone. Other nations could also may also have such sanctions. So at the end, but when you look at it in terms of football, if the Gabonese team, they are being lodged at Hotel La Falaise, and you look at relative hotels like the Mountain Hotel in Boya, that will be lodging another team. You look at the hotel in Bangu, you look at some similar hotels where other nations will be lodging in. I think that we have to be honest that the geographical location of Hotel La Falaise isn't the best for total focus for a player for a competition of this magnitude. But again, my major worry is with CAF. CAF, there should be some laid down criteria in terms of security and location for hotels. In France, for example, they have Clairefontaine. It's in the outskirts. But there are so many other beautiful hotels in Paris. There are so many beautiful hotels in Marseille, for example. But you cannot keep players, you cannot confine players for a major tournament in a rowdy environment. You need to take them where they are so comfortable. When you look at the location of Mountain Hotel in Boya, it's so comfortable for players to concentrate. And the players, those who will be lodging at Mountain Hotel, they'll be leaving Mountain Hotel and their training sessions will be at the Moliko Omispo Stadium. Once again, when you look at the position of Moliko Omispo, the pitch itself to the road, there is so much distance. So the players can when they leave the hotels, they can definitely go to the pitch, concentrate and play good football. So the fact that they refused the hotel, in my opinion, based on the location of Hotel La Falaise, they are right. But where they failed, they ought to have informed CAF prior to the month of September that they are not comfortable with the position of the hotel. CAF would have given them an alternative.
Have done something about that?
Yes. So they had enough time because everything is based on the rules and regulations that have been set. If CAF says that on this date, by the end of August, almost all nations were already aware of the hotels where they'll be lodging. And if nations were allowed to send delegates to inspect and to be more comfortable with the location of their hotels, I think that that's where the Gabonese FA failed. They ought to have come in at that point in time to say they are not comfortable. Then last aspect of it is, at what point in time is the FA rejecting? You cannot come in with your players at a time when players needs enough rest, at a time when players needs enough concentration. They are talking of hotel negotiations.
This brings us back to this issue of the FA taking decisions without consulting the players. I'm sure decision must have been taken without the players being consulted.
The players are supposed to be part of the deliberations.
Most of these players play abroad. Okay. You see, the core of the Gabonese team, you have the Bwangas and the others are who play they play in Europe, they play in Clermont Foot, they're out of Gabon. So I'm sure the FA came in and they looked at it and accepted without consulting these players. Remember in the days of Cameroon, the Marrakesh Gate, you know, with Sawede Tufis and Iya Mohamed. You know, when Iya went and negotiated the game against Algeria without consulting the players, and the players noticed later that it was, you know, it was a big deal for Cameroon without them, you know, fishing out a little of it. They contested and they boycotted the game, you see, and it was a big stroke, you know, on the back of Cameroon. So this brings us to the fact that there should always be that link between the FA and the players concerned. Don't take decisions without consulting these players who have grown from one level to the other today. Macdella, whether you like it or not, today we don't have the players who play for Canon of Yaoundé, who play for Tupisa Mazembe. We have players who play for Arsenal, Liverpool and Chelsea, and these are players who are used to, you know, high standard, you know, preparations before the game. So always consult them before you take your decisions.
Okay, let's take a look at Gabon squad for the Afcon. That's why I'm not saying anything. Let's talk about Equatorial Guinea's peaceful arrival to Cameroon amidst recent repatriation of Cameroonians and police violence suffered by Cameroonians out there in Equatorial Guinea. I'm sure it's no news that Cameroonians have been violated out there in Equatorial Guinea, but this is just to show you that Cameroon is a place of hospitality. Despite everything that has happened out there in Equatorial Guinea, they actually opened their doors and they welcomed Equatorial Guinea to Cameroon.
You know, we are neighbors. We are members of CEMAC. Consequently, we have an obligation to receive them with so much hospitality. Okay. That is the degree at which we have to receive. When you get to QC, you discover that when you are at QC, just a stone throw is Equatorial Guinea. It therefore tells you the beauty that so Cameroonians, we have an obligation to definitely receive them. Couple the fact that we are all members in the CEMAC, and we have a lot of cultural similarities. So yes, they also hosted the Afcon some few years ago, and I think that it's a pride for all Cameroonians that not only Equatorial Guinea are we going to be hospitable towards them, we have as an obligation to ensure that we receive Africa as a whole. It's the issue of sending out Cameroonians from their country. Those are political issues which I think that those who are in the political milieu can best manage that. We are sports analysts. We focus more on the sporting aspect of it. There's one watchword in sports, that is fair play, irrespective of the socio-political climate between two nations. Fair play will definitely prevail. We are going to receive them. We love them so much. They are welcome to Cameroon.
All right, we are going to take you to the southwest region of Cameroon. We are actually going to take you to Limbe. Mauritania are already at Fini Hotel Limbe. They were drawn in Pool F, where they are going to play their games at the Limbe Omnisport Stadium. Take a look at Mauritania squad that has already arrived Fini Hotel ahead of their games to be staged next week. That is Mauritania squad that has already arrived in Limbe, Fini Hotel in Limbe. They are one of the teams in Pool F that have already touched down in Limbe ahead of their upcoming games. And just to tell you that the Afcon gets underway on Sunday the 9th with the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon opening game with the Stallions of Burkina Faso. We are going to take you to Yaoundé, where we had our reporter Marie Rosine do a stand-up for us to tell us how the atmosphere in Yaoundé is today.
Yaoundé vit et respire au son de la canne. Ici, nous sommes à Olembe, à proximité du stade Paul Biya, dans un village de la canne nommé Fanzone Club. Fanzone Club qui va recouper. C'est tout un village en général. Il y en a deux. Le premier village, c'est à l'hôtel de ville de Yaoundé où tout est déjà véritablement en place. Et ici, le village est en train de prendre corps. Est en train de prendre corps. On ne néglige pas les faibles commencements. Nous avions déjà la promesse du sous-préfet que d'ici demain soir, parce qu'il y aura une grande veillée ici avec des artistes de renom pour pour montrer les couleurs déjà de cette canne ici à Yaoundé. Nous allons écouter tout à l'heure le sous-préfet de Yaoundé premier.
Je dois avouer qu'après la première visite, je me demandais si on allait tenir les délais. Mais je dois féliciter le promoteur de notre Fan Enjoy Quarter pour le travail remarquable qui a été abattu. Et je crois que c'est visible. Nous avons fait le tour ensemble. Toutes les conditions sont réunies pour que notre Fan Enjoy Quarter soit prêt.
À présent, nous allons écouter le promoteur de ce village, le village Fan Club Zone. C'était la brousse au départ, mais une brousse transformée totalement en village.
On fera le quad le plus grand du Cameroun et un quad qu'on n'a jamais vu en Afrique depuis qu'on organise la CAN. Nous sommes donc lancés dans un challenge de faire un village de la CAN sur 4 hectares que nous avons dénommé Fan Enjoy Quarter.
Après le sous-préfet de Yaoundé premier, nous allons prendre la représentante du maire. Elle va nous parler un peu de ce village parce que c'est le territoire de Yaoundé premier.
C'est une réalité. Je voudrais dire ici que le village de la Cannes, ici, Fan Enjoy Quarter, est le plus grand village du Cameroun. Et donc, nous voulons dire que tout le monde, c'est-à-dire tout le monde en général, tout le monde, en particulier ceux qui sont à Yaoundé premier, de venir vivre la CAN ici parce que nous avons pris également toutes les dispositions nécessaires pour qu'ils soient dans la fête.
Comparativement aux deux villages, le village de la CAN de l'hôtel de ville et le village de la CAN de Yaoundé premier, on a comme impression que Yaoundé premier n'est pas vraiment premier. En tout cas, une image vaut 1000 mots.
Potentiel stand se présente à tour de rôle. Ils occupent progressivement déjà leur stand à eux attribué. Pour le moment, tout se passe bien, il n'y a rien à signaler.
N'allons pas très vite en besogne, attendons encore quelques heures parce qu'on a encore 48 heures pour le kick-off. Marie-Rosine Gandouga et Serge Biwele pour ma Média Prime. À vous l'antenne.
Many thanks to you, Marie-Rosine, for compiling that report to us. Equally, we are going to show you the streets of Douala. Indeed, all is set for Africa's biggest showpiece, as Douala already has almost all flags that have been set up along the streets to welcome the pool that will play here at the Japoma Stadium in Douala. Take a look. These are the streets in Douala where we have almost all the flags of the African Nation Championship that will be each year in Cameroon. And Douala has already shown readiness. We can see from fans, bike riders already showing signs of promoting African football and of course Africa to Cameroon. Let's talk about Morocco and Sierra Leonean players who have been promised huge financial compensation for participating in this year's Afcon. It is no news that the players have been getting motivations from their countries and for their participation in the third edition of the African Cup of Nations. Mr. Ako, I come back to you. This is a big motivation. This is not the first time it's happening. Before the start of, or before even getting to this stage, some countries and players have been hearing of huge benefits that will come their way if they participate, or some have been promised if they reach to this stage, they are going to get this sum of money, this amount of money. Don't you think this is a motivation to the players who are actually coming out here to come and clinch the title?
Yes, to me, some of those values are still too small. Yes, because for those who understand the way football works, the footballers are the main actors of the game. Football has become a multi-million-dollar industry. And it's extremely important for the main actors of the game to be given a fair share. It's time for us to understand, because more often those delegates who accompany those players are also being paid huge sums of money, and there are times when players are requested to reimburse their match bonuses. We have seen scenarios where players don't even take their match bonuses. A player like Sadio Mane is already at a certain level at the international scene, for which even what he is going to get from the FA will be is going to be too minimal for him. The players are the main actors of football. We need to treat them fairly, and this does not only hold to the international players. Even at the grassroots, we need to treat players at a different capacity, in a different capacity. We cannot, here in the Elite One, players still go home with no contracts within the course of the season. We have players whose match bonuses are 1,500 francs. You have players who, by the end of the season, cannot boast of 1 million francs CFA, but for which they are the main actors of the game. So I totally, I'm so comfortable with the Moroccan FA to have increased the value for their players. This is to show respect for those who are actually generating the income, because at the end of the day, there's a huge chunk of money that will be given to the FAs. So it's but normal for us to have the fair share. Secondly, in terms of politics, football has maintained some politicians on their seats because they use it as a political manifesto. Consequently, you cannot be treating those who are keeping you on seat inappropriately. So the player should have the fair share of the finances which is generated during the jamboree. It's high time. Look at the marketing aspect. There is so much in terms of publicity, marketing. Think about the huge billions of dollars that CAF gets, the FA gets. Where does that money go to? Yes, some days ago we discussed about the fact that in Cameroon, for example, we have won the Afcon in 84, 88. We won it in 2000, won it in 2002, won it in 2017. We were runners-up in 2008 when we were defeated by Egypt. Where has that money been going to? So it is but normal that players should receive the fair share. It was so sad for us to hear that the Gabonese delegation refused to move to Cameroon if their match bonuses were not being paid. It's not in the 21st century that we should be hearing of such. Remember, some few years ago in Cameroon, a law was passed that match bonuses for players should be paid prior to the commencement of an event, because we had series of complaints where players, their bonuses were not being paid. Remember the scandal, Tame Mayer with the minister, where Tame Mayer's money was not being paid, and when he requested for it, it became an issue. Remember the scenarios of bounce checks, where players went to receive their monies, but unfortunately they couldn't. So players are the main actors of the game. They should be treated fairly. We would continue to hit hard on the FA. Thank God in Cameroon we have somebody like Samuel Eto'o. Reasons why I've been clamoring for DJ Drogba, because to win the fifth, when you look at when Kalisha Aboya came as the president of FA in his country, things changed. Reasons why today they are in major platforms. Their Elite One is being showcased in different platforms in Africa. But it's unfortunate that in Cameroon, our FA cannot be showcased out of Cameroon. So I think that we clamor for players to come out from grass, because these are the main actors. It's so sad that we focus only on the international players. We talk only about players who have received 20 million francs CFA for match bonuses. But football is not only about those players who will be competing in the Afcon. Football is an empire. It begins from the junior level. It gets to the senior level. So we should treat at every level, there should be fairness at every level of football development. We should be talking here of football development, because Afcon simply crowns development of football. So we cannot only be depending on or rely, we cannot say we have been paying huge sums of money to those who will be representing the nation during the Afcon. Before they get to that level, they would have gone through the junior stages. At the junior stages, how have we been treating those players? Reasons why a lot of our talents play in other nations like France and all the like. Because at that junior level, we seem not to have understood that we have to pay players huge sums of money. It is not a favor that we are doing to those players. It is a duty for the nation to cater for the players, because those players, and it's also a duty for the FA to cater for those players, because they are the main source of revenue for the FA. If those players don't play, there will be no FA.
All right. If we have to look at this from another angle, Gilbert, some people may think that Morocco or the players, money that will be given to the players is like going to put pressure on the players, because maybe some countries that have been promised money that if they get to this level, they are going to give them this money. What happens if they don't get to that level? Because I think that the players will go on the pitch with so much pressure because they have something waiting for them, and of course, aside the money, they would always want to please the government, because if they don't please the government, then they are not going to get those benefits.
You remember the city of Guinea before they left, Conakry, the head of state told them that we're going to give you what you want, but make sure you bring us the trophy. And if you don't bring us the trophy, you pay back into the coffers of the state.
Exactly. So what happens if they don't go back with the trophy?
That's an exceptional case. Let's take the case of the Indomilans of Cameroon. They've received over 30 million francs. They got 475,000 francs for presence fee, and then they got 30 million francs for participation fee. And as the competition proceeds, that's moves from one stage to the other, that additional bonuses. That's how it functions. It's not like the case of Guinea where you're told you don't bring us the trophy, you pay back. No, that's not the case. As the competition proceeds, you have bonuses for particular levels. The first round is what you get. Cameroon, if we move into the rounds of 8, I think the 8 finals, we shall receive additional 15 million francs. That's what the ministry is providing. The FA has not said a word yet, and other sponsors who will be coming in to chip in something. And before the competition runs to an end, I want to take the case of 2017, where we won the Afcon. Players got home with at least 140 million francs. That was huge money, huge sum of money. But look at Macdella. What pains me so much is that these professional players, the Choupo-Motings and the others who play for Bayern München and don't need that money, they have enough for themselves. It was an opportunity for Tony Conchechao and other trainers around to get 2 or 3 home-based players in their squads. I mean, if you have a player like Ashu Keredo who comes back home with 114 million francs, it's a big deal for him. If you take a player, of Vola, René Ndi or Bambutos of Buddha, you get him in the squad just to accompany Lions. Why not? He goes back home with 114 million francs, and it changes the lifestyle of his family. That's what is interesting. But when you get all these professionals, the Ganagos and the others that are used to earning such sum of money, so you don't get them excited over it. Instead, they want more of it. Remember the Marrakesh game, as I said earlier.
Andrew Nana's case is an example.
He's just signed it.
Milan, a whooping
sum of money. So you don't baffle him with 114 million francs. So that's it also. So we should be thinking of not having the Afcon as a forum where we bring players to to create an ambiance for football, but it should only be a forum where players come and at least get something for themselves and their families. We've seen in the days of Bambutos of Buddha, there was this goalkeeper, I think it was Eric something, Quicker, who played the Confederation Cup. And when Quicker came back to Buddha, he came back with something like 50 million francs. He got a home for himself, got the mother's home and all those things. And after that, he stopped playing. He got 1 or 2 taxis, and today Quicker is fine. He's a multi-millionaire from that deal. So it's good we have that. And there's equally pressure on the players. You know, the different states are investing a lot on that. When you look at what Morocco have done, you ask yourself what they're gaining in doing that. You come to Cameroon, you take the more famous hotel, you take the staff from your country, logistics and everything it takes, and take to Yaoundé. It is huge. And when you look at what you earn at the end of the day, you're not even sure of grabbing the trophy and others. It's a big loss for your country. So you see, somewhere, somehow, as Ako said, there's something political behind it. The different governments in place have been using football to stay in power. You like it or not? You know, when Cameroon is playing, we are all invited to forget about the Cameroon Renaissance movement, forget about whatever crisis is going on, and we speak the indomitable of Cameroon. If you go now somewhere and say, no, come to his Cameroon, some people will say, no, we're not interested. We want to know whether Choupo-Moting is coming or whatsoever. They are focused on the Afcon, and that's something big. And mark you, if the Lions go back, if we keep this trophy back home, when you talk politics here or whatsoever, you know, people will not see what you're doing. Remember, there was an Afcon we were playing, that was in 2008, and while we were playing the finals, you know, price of fuel, you know, were increased and all those things. It was until the Lions lost the final against Egypt in 28 that we stayed and said, hey, what was going on? We had noticed the prices of fuel had taken a rise. So these politicians and others use football for, you know, their interests and others to consolidate power and maintain, use it as a reconciliation platform. When you look at what is happening in Cameroon today, I want to bet you that if we win the Afcon, it might be used as a process to reconcile all the worried parties in Cameroon. Remember when we won the Afcon in 2017, Fabrice Ondoa came and called his brothers and sisters of the Northwest and Southwest region to calm down a bit, that Bamenda and others were involved in it all. But it didn't stop them from going where they got to. So football today is used not only in the marketing point of view, but it's equally used you know, as a socio-political issue that brings all parties concerned on the same table.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for the beautiful analysis here in the studio. We are going to take you again, televiewers, to Bafoussam once more, where journalists were schooled on how to go about their job during the Afcon. Florent Kamga again compiled this report for us.
Rester professionnel tout en gardant l'esprit patriotique pendant la CAN Total Énergie Cameroun 2021. Telle est la principale orientation recommandée aux journalistes à Bafoussam au cours du séminaire d'imprégnation à l'intention des représentants des médias tenu hier jeudi 6 janvier.
C'est notre Coupe du Monde et notre préparation psychologique doit avoir comme mot de garde patriotisme.
Parmi la cinquantaine de participants à cet atelier, moins de 20 journalistes sont accrédités par la CAF pour couvrir la compétition. Un fait déploré par le délégué régional de la communication qui appelle les journalistes à rester sereins et travailler pour présenter l'Ouest aux visiteurs.
Ça nous a préoccupés. Parce que moi j'ai dit, en termes de... à l'Ouest, il n'y a pas plus de 15... Il n'y a pas plus de 15 accréditations. Pour motiver notre demande, nous avons expliqué que nous délivrerons des badges à accès limité. Et que vous n'êtes pas au stade, mais vous pouvez aller dans un fan zone, voir ce qui se passe là-bas, vous pouvez regarder tout ça. Donc, nous avons soumis cette audience. On ne sait pas ce que ça va donner.
Deux principaux facilitateurs ont recyclé les journalistes sur la collecte, la titraille et l'orientation du travail dans le respect de la discipline.
Avant d'aller à la compétition, c'est-à-dire faire ses biscuits, faire des recherches sur les équipes, faire les recherches sur la compétition, faire les recherches sur l'environnement général du pays qui accueille. Et maintenant, se renseigner sur comment faire pour accéder au site de la compétition. En tout temps, malgré le flot d'informations qui arrivent, rester serein, recouper l'information avant de la diffuser.
Pour les participants, ce séminaire arrive à point nommé.
Et ce qui a été dit aujourd'hui par les différents orateurs...
Thank you once again, Flong Kamga, for your relentless efforts to ensure that the televiewers get all it is to know about the happenings there in Bafoussam. We are going to talk about CAF president who has fulfilled his words by touching down host nation Cameroon this morning. We say welcome to you, Mr. President. What do you think about this? It's a say, and he kept to his words.
He's home. He's definitely home.
And you think Cameroon is already very, very ready to welcome him?
Yeah, I think...
or rather to host him.
Tomorrow there's going to be a game at Douala Omisport Stadium, a friendly game. CAF delegation with some locals. Mosepe will be in the pitch to savor the beauty of one of our pitches. But that said, I really appreciate if Dr. Mosepe could definitely visit Southwest, Limbe, Boya, because Limbe is so beautiful. Okay. Limbe is one of the most beautiful cities. the Malawi squad, I think that they are going to enjoy the beauty
and it is a town of friendship.
A town of friendship.
Of course.
They have the town of legendary hospitality.
Where they are going to train. Their training pitches there.
Of course. So those are the teams that will be playing in Southwest. Will definitely leave Cameroon with good memories, because remember they are being lodged at Fini Hotel, which is just by the sea. You can imagine players getting that fresh breeze from the sea, and think about those who be in Boya at the Mountain Club, which is just at the foot of the mountain. The weather there is so beautiful. So I think that it will encourage Dr. Mosepe not only to remain in Douala or Yaoundé, but he should also visit visit Limbe as well as Boya.
Your general appraisal of the newly constructed Olimbe Stadium as well as all the other stadia that were chosen by CAF to host the Afcon. Of course, CAF can only choose a stadium if it's up to standard. So, do you think Cameroon has done a good job?
Well, done more than a good job, Macdella. When you look at the different infrastructure we have today, I mean, it's at least we should praise the government in place for taking a lot to have what we have today. Olimbe is, when you get to Olimbe, you don't envy one who got to Santiago Bernabeu or to Stamford Bridge or whatsoever. I mean, it's beautiful. When you go to Bepanda Reunification Stadium, I mean, you ask yourself why this stadium wasn't chosen for any of the Afcon games. I mean, when Mosepe gets there tomorrow, he will get to understand, I mean, that I ought to have chosen the stadium to one of the hosting stadiums for the games. I mean, it's interesting. We have no doubt about that. What should we think about is how do we, take care of all this infrastructure after the Afcon? It becomes a big, a hard nut to crack. How do we take care of all this infrastructure? Because we have about 7 pitches, standards. We have training pitches, over 15 of them, and others. It's going to be complicated. This time we need able mayors. We need, the FA to be serious, and all the parties concerned and sponsors to come up to see how we can take care of all these infrastructures after the Afcon. And Macdella, I won't go through without saying something. If we listen to, it's true, you didn't ask me the question, but I couldn't go through without saying it. You won't imagine that a town that's hosting Afcon games, you have only you have less than 15 journalists accredited for the Afcon. It's out of question. I mean, it's really painful. You find people who are not concerned with sports today covering the Afcon. I don't boast. I, Gilbert, since 2016-15, I've been covering games in Cameroon. I've been to all the corners of Cameroon.
So I've not been accredited. That same challenge.
I was almost brought down by the Amber Boys in Bamenda when I went to cover the PWD in Young game. I was the only sports commentator that day. But it's really painful that today CAF is hosting a competition in Cameroon, and as members of the Cameroon Association of Sports Journalists, we are not accredited. You find people, I know
even part of association is supposed to be considered.
I'm telling you,
because so many journalists even in the Southwest region are facing the same fight.
It's really funny, Macdella. I mean, and you have a guy like Alex Siwe, who's at the head of the communication department, who knows how it functions in Cameroon. You have people who have been accredited who have nothing to do with football, sports, and all those things. It's really funny. I mean, in the days ahead, they should look at that. They shouldn't leave people frustrated, because when you have a big jamboree of that caliber being hosted in your country, and as one who has a love for the passion for it, and then you're not into it, it's really painful.
I'm sure if they are watching us right now, they should have taken that into consideration. We are going to take 1 or 2 text messages. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, in the studio. In my opinion, Gabon's FA made the choice without consulting the players to know what is best for them, and the results is what we are deliberating on now. Football is a game that needs both mental and physical preparations, and if the hotel in question is not up to standard, and for a star-studded Gabon side, then the players are right to deny the facility. Sincerely, we will be experiencing some of these lapses, but if we are ready to learn, we are not ready to learn from our shortcomings, then in subsequent hosting we will do better. Tandy Emmanuel from Tico Council Community Radio. Tandy Emmanuel, aka The Boss, thank you so very much for that contribution. It is at this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, that we are going to take leave of you. But before we take leave of you, let us tell you about Kaji Beer, one of the best beers in Cameroon and of course in the world, who are official sponsors of the Total Energies African Cup of Nations.
Le football fait partie de notre patrimoine. Profitez de chaque match en savourant une Kaji Beer bien fraîche. Kaji Beer, la bière officielle de la CAN Total Energy Cameroun 2021. À consommer avec modération, 21 ans et plus.
Mr. Ako, thanks for coming.
Thank you so much, Macdella, for your invitation. Our hands and our hearts are open for Africa. You are all welcome to Cameroon.
We hope you'll be here again with us the next week, Gilbert.
Yeah, this will be home. Thanks for welcoming me. Thanks, for that. Courage to the indomitable lions of Cameroon. We have to bring down the stallions on Sunday. We need to start well. Macdella, in 2017, we started with the stallions, and we brought back the Afcon. That was in Central Africa, in Gabon. Is history going to repeat itself when we meet the stallions again in Central Africa, this time around at home? Well, let's keep our fingers crossed.
Good luck to the indomitable lions as well. Good luck to all 23 teams who have come into Cameroon to play the African Cup of Nations. Thank you for staying with us. You can watch a rebroadcast of this program tomorrow at 9 a.m. It is a production of Johnson and Vola, and I was your host, Macdella Eyong Bisong. Do have a blessed weekend and a good night.